12th, 2018 is now in session. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dear God, thank you for bringing us together safely this evening and for the many blessings we enjoy. We pray for the protection of our police and firefighters as they serve and protect protect each and every one of us. Please guide us all with dedication, commitment, and humility as we serve the residents of our fine city. In your holy name, amen. Carmen, roll call vote, please.
Markovich.
Here.
Spitali.
Here.
Kalwinski.
Here.
Torres.
Here.
Higgs.
Here.
Emerson.
Here.
Warple.
Here.
Rakos.
Here.
Venez.
Here, let the record reflect 9 present, 0 absent. Moving on to reading of the minutes.
Madam President,
Yes, Councilman Spitali.
make a motion to accept the minutes from February 26, 2018.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Spitali, second by Councilman Emerson, to accept the minutes of February 26, 2018. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of claims?
Madam Chair Lady,
Yes, Councilman.
move for approval of claims February 21st, 2018 through March 7, 2018 for council meeting March 12, 2018. Beginning with claims dated 2/26/18 and ending with claims dated 3/7/18, claim number 1309 through claim number 1590 for $5,450,536.31. I so move.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Markovich, second by Councilman Higgs, for approval of claims from February 21st through March 7th, 2018. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Carmen, roll call vote, please.
Markovich.
Yes.
Spitali.
Yes.
Kalwinski.
Yes.
Torres.
Yes.
Higgs.
Yes.
Emerson.
Yes.
Warple.
Yes.
Rakos.
Yes.
Venez.
Yes. Claims pass, 9 in favor, 0 opposed. Moving on to public hearings, there are none. Communications.
Madam President,
Yes, Councilman Higgs.
recently there was an incident at my home where I got sick, and somehow or another the impression got as though I was personally accusing anyone, or the fire or the police department or something. The nature. There was $200 that was actually on my table that came up missing. I never accused anyone. I simply went to the police department first and asked the question as to if they knew what happened to the money. Went to the fire station. The fireman, I don't even know his name, came out and said, "How did you get in here?" The door was open. And from that point on, another fire department battalion or whatever he is came and started talking to me. And I explained to him I was not accusing anyone of anything. I just simply wanted to know what happened to my money. And for that, if I'm at fault for asking a question about something that was in my house, I'm sorry. What can I say? But in all honesty and all respect, I have the utmost respect for the fire and the police department, and I never accused them of taking anything. I just simply wanted to know what happened to the money that was on my table. I don't know how it got blown out of proportion, and I guess it's a political attack or whatever, I don't know. But the reality of it is, I am sorry, and I apologize for any miscommunication that occurred and took place in regards to that particular issue. That's all I have to say.
Any other communications?
Madam President,
Yes, Councilman
I'd
Rakos.
like to announce that there is a fundraiser for Scott Middle School's Science Olympiad team tonight. Goes till 9 o'clock at Freddy's Steakhouse, and you can buy tickets at the door.
Thank you. Any other communications?
Madam President,
Councilman Higgs.
I received correspondence from the Hammond Police Department. It says, "Dear, per your request, Councilman Higgs, I'm requesting in writing, my previous message stated that we did perform a sweep to the Tanglewood apartment complex last year. We initially wrote approximately 80 reciprocity warrant citations. 60 days later, further investigation by our reciprocity officers led to approximately 50 court citations issued. The vast majority of these citations are still pending in court. The court is on its own separate entity, and I cannot speak on the length of time this process is taking. I can say, as an example, I received a subpoena in November of 2017 for reciprocity citations that I wrote in 2014. Per your inquiry about Douglas Point, we have contacted management there. Are very reciprocal to us doing a reciprocity sweep there. We will be issuing a notice to the residents there explaining on the reciprocity law, and then we will sweep the complex and issue warning citations. 60 days later, our reciprocity officers will investigate these warnings by checking them against the list of residents on leases there. They will also check various other information sources, and then will issue court citations based on the documentation they find, identifying them as Indiana residents that have been residing there for more than 60 days. Per your complaint about the 800 block of Carroll, as I informed you previously, there were 10 reciprocity tickets issued and 3 vehicles red tagged for either no plates or expired plates.
Any other communications?
Madam President,
Councilman Higgs.
as I do every year, there will be a cleanup in the 3rd District, and I will be providing bags and gloves throughout my district from the dates of May 7th for 2 entire weeks, and hopefully I can get some dumpsters donated. So if you know of any entities that is willing to donate dumpsters this year, please feel free to let me know.
Thank you. Any other communications?
Madam President,
Yes, Councilman Rakos.
I'd like to announce that on Saturday, March 17th, Hessville will have the first ever St. Patrick's Day Parade starting at 1 o'clock. It'll be starting at Hessville Park, going all the way to 161st down Kennedy. Come out and help turn Hessville green. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other communications? Any other communications? Any other communications? Communications are now closed. Moving on to committee reports.
Madam President,
Yes, Councilman Warple.
Building and Zoning will be bringing out 1804.
Thank you. And the Community and Crime Watch Committee will announce the upcoming Community and Crime Watch meetings. On Friday, March 16th, Community Watch at Silver Birch. That will be at 1 p.m. The guest speaker will be our Lake County Sheriff, and lunch will be provided. The East Hammond Pullman Crime Watch will meet Tuesday, March 20th at the Ophelia Steen Center at 6:30 p.m. Hessville Crime Watch will meet Thursday, March 15th at the Jean Shepard Center beginning at 7 p.m. Lafayette Neighborhood Watch will meet Wednesday, March 21st at Lafayette School, beginning at 6:30 p.m. South Hammond Crime Watch will meet Thursday, March 15th at the Hammond Housing Authority, former Hammond Housing Authority building. It is now the home of the Legal Aid Clinic on the corner of 173rd and Chestnut. That begins at 7 p.m. As always, I urge everyone to come out to one of the community or crime watch groups to find out what's going on in your neighborhood and in our city as a whole, because community is not just about me, it's about us. Committee reports is now closed. Moving on to introduction of ordinances, there are none. Oh, I think I skipped one. Ordinance, third and final reading.
1804, an ordinance reclassifying certain lands in the city of Hammond for zoning purposes and amending ordinance number 8514, an ordinance establishing a zoning plan for the city of Hammond, including the regulations and maps to administer the zoning plan in order to provide for orderly growth and development within the city, all in accordance with the comprehensive land use plan as amended, for property commonly known as 7527 Kennedy Avenue.
Madam President,
Yes, Councilman Warple.
move for final passage and adoption of 1804.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Warple, second by Councilman Spitali for final passage of 1804. Any discussion?
Madam President,
Yes, Councilman.
this is just a rezone from R1 to S1 for the old FOP property, and it's for future development.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Carmen, roll call vote, please.
Markovich,
Yes.
Spitali,
Yes.
Kalwinski,
Yes.
Torres,
Yes.
Higgs,
Yes.
Emerson,
Yes.
Warple,
Yes.
Rakos,
Yes.
Vines.
Yes. 1804 passes, 9 in favor, 0 opposed. And Carmen, that should conclude the ordinance third and final.
It does.
Thank you very much. Moving on to introduction of ordinances, there are none. Resolutions, there are none. New and unfinished business.
Madam President,
Councilman Higgs.
I did receive from the superintendent of parks in regards to the renovation of the pavilion at the park, and hopefully we can get that completed this year. I'm going to see what's in the budget, and since the mayor's here, hopefully he'll work with the superintendent of parks so we can get that completed for the renovation of the new pavilion at Harrison Park. Estimated cost is $299,600. That's without the trees, so hopefully, Mayor, since you're here, you can work with me on getting that completed.
Any other new and unfinished business?
Madam President,
Yes, Councilman.
I'd like to wish everyone a happy St. Patrick's Day and attend the Hammond's first St. Patrick's Day parade over in the 6th District, and I think it steps off at 10 o'clock. I'm just guessing. I don't want to give out bad. Oh, 1 o'clock?
Yes.
Okay, the party continues the night before. So anyway, everyone should come out. It's the first time we've done it. Thank you.
I think lineup is 10 a.m.
Lineup is
Lineup, they start at 10
Noon,
a.m.
noon,
Is it
noon, 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 noon.
Noon, okay.
You're going to be off early if you're there at 10.
Well, we'll all be there. All righty, any other new and unfinished business? I would like to announce that the Prom Genie has their 5th annual Boutique Day coming up this Saturday, which is March 17th, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Shepard Center. Anyone looking to get a free prom dress, shoes, you can get a makeover, hairstyles, manicures, go to the Shepard Center, and everything is free of charge. Again, that's Saturday, March 17th, from 9 a.m. to noon. Any other new and unfinished business?
Madam President,
Yes, Councilman.
just for those that have an agenda, that intent to consider wasn't needed because the ordinance passed.
That is correct. Thank you. All righty. Any other new and unfinished business? New and unfinished business is now closed. Moving
not
on
here.
to public expression. The first speaker of the evening is
We
David
passed.
Turpin Jr.
1804.
If you would please approach the podium and state your name and address for the record, please.
I want to go back to,
David Turpin Jr., 7414 Howard Avenue. So I'm here to ask the City Council to reintroduce the resolution in support of DACA and to allow the resolution to come to a vote, not to smother the resolution as happened the last time it was presented. I've heard two arguments been made against allowing the resolution to come to a vote. I do not believe these arguments withstand critical examination, and I respond. One, the resolution does not expose the city to lawsuits because it is only a statement of principle and leadership. It is not a welcoming city ordinance. Two, the resolution will have an impact because the
Can you
fight.
speak in the mic a little bit, sir?
Two, the resolution will have an impact because the fight for human rights for immigrants will not go away. The enemies of these rights are determined, but so are we. In fact, we are even more determined. And we will insist, and we continue to insist at all levels of government until we win that fight. And this is an opportunity for this council to take a leadership stand in support of the principle of human rights for all immigrants. I have also heard that individuals, including the mayor, are ready to sign the resolution as individuals, not as public officials. I welcome those signatures. I think anyone who would like to sign that resolution as individuals should go ahead and do so. But in fact, if you feel so strongly, since it is within the power of the city to approve the resolution, why not just go ahead and do that?
Thank you, sir. The next speaker is also a Turpin. I don't know that I can read your writing. Forgive me.
My writing, that's my son's.
Oh, okay. He needs penmanship classes. All righty.
Yes, for many years. But I'm not a teacher of penmanship. My name is Ruth Turpin. I also
All
live
righty,
at
thank you.
7414 Howard Avenue, and I teach philosophy at Purdue Northwest campus. Have done for about, well, since the fall of 2007. One of the courses I teach the most often is called Ethics for the Professions, and one of the big challenges for my students, semester after semester, is a consideration of an ethical philosophy called utilitarianism, where, in order to keep your white hat and be one of the good guys, you are required to consider all of the consequences to all of the beings affected by your action or choice of inaction. That means who benefits, who pays, who gets hurt, and of course, how much. Now, clearly a resolution that committed the city council to an illegal action or one that put them in danger would be of no benefit to any resident, no matter how much it appeared. But a resolution not legally placing them in confrontation would have good consequences for quite a few people, and I urge all of my fellow Hammond residents to consider all of us. Many of my students over the last decade and a quarter or thereabouts have family, friends, or were they themselves part of DACA, were immigrants, with various questions about their status, even if they weren't from Mexico, or they were from Eastern Europe, or other parts of South America, and they have family members that they were trying to bring over, et cetera, et cetera. So the question of welcoming would be a legal challenge, but the question of support for people who face those legal challenges by themselves up against a very big, very powerful federal machine, which right now is in the hands of people who do not support human rights. A statement of support for those individuals in their fight would be, I think, a gesture, and don't cut to the, well, it doesn't have any meaning because it's not legal and it doesn't have any money attached. It has a lot of meaning. And the risk is relatively small. if you word it correctly, and I'm sure you're capable of doing such things and get lawyers to help you, the risk is relatively small, and the benefits are that you get to keep your white hat and you get to support people who need it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Linda Anguiano.
Anguiano.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Okay, my name is Linda Anguiano. I reside at 6814 Colorado Avenue in Hammond, Indiana, 46323. So thank you for allowing me to speak. This is my first time up here. And I was raised in Hammond. My parents have lived here their entire lives. But I am a third generation Hoosier. My grandparents lived here, my parents, my grandparents. My great-grandparents came from Poland and Mexico. And I can tell you that my family has made a significant contribution to this area, as many of the dreamers could. So I'm in here in support of DACA. And I'm in support of this council just writing a letter, a statement, saying that we support it. I am not asking for the city council or the mayor to do anything that would jeopardize our funding, whether it's federal or state, from down in Indianapolis. And if it takes courage to stand up to those other people, then I say have courage. As you, Madam President, said, it's not about me, it's about us. So there are many here who probably don't have that experience of coming over here as a very young child and not having all your paperwork in order. When I moved back to Indiana from California, it took me 2 years to get my driver's license. You want to know why? Because my stepfather adopted me. And it took me forever. American-born, was born in Chicago, raised in Hammond. It took me 2 years to find all of the paperwork so that I could get a legal driver's license. Now, fortunately, I still had my California license, but the Indiana law is if you're here 30 days, you've got to get an Indiana driver's license. And I went through so much waiting in long lines and being embarrassed and being hassled because I didn't have my paperwork. And I actually got the attitude from some of the workers that I was trying to pull a fast one. Well, how come your name on your birth certificate says this, and over here it says this, and how did this happen? So this is from an American-born U.S. citizen, third generation. I can't imagine what some of those dreamers have to go through without their papers. And the more stories I hear about these people, there's very, very little, if any, documentation of crime. There's very little documentation of them being hooligans and causing trouble or trying to get by. They came here when they were young. They came here through no choice of their own, probably, their parents, grandparents, or other relatives. All that I'm asking is that this city take a little courage and stand up for what's right and just say we support DACA.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Lilia Wolfe.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm Lilia Wolfe. I live at 7128 Monroe Avenue, 46324. I'm here in support of DACA because as a teenager myself, I'm 13 years old. I go to Gavitt Middle School as an 8th grader, and I know people in my life, my friends' family, that are dreamers or have family that are dreamers, and I know that they, very little population is bad, are like hooligans or whatever, like she said, and doing this would not affect your funds. It wouldn't do anything of the sort. It'd just be showing your support, and it'd be giving inspiration for cities and and for cities and states around us that want to do the same. And I think it could make a really big impact on people's lives. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is John Halstead.
John Halstead, 1218 Creekview Drive, 46307. Thank you for allowing me to speak for a few minutes. I am a U.S. citizen, and it's for that reason that I feel compelled to speak today, because I know many people who are directly affected by DACA cannot speak publicly without risking themselves or their families. I am the great-grandchild of people who came to this country illegally. 400 years ago, my white European ancestors came here without asking the permission of the people of color who had lived here for centuries before them. Today, most undocumented immigrants are less likely to commit crimes than the average American citizen. I wish that my ancestors had been as decent as undocumented immigrants today. My white ancestors, unfortunately, were murderers and rapists. And some, I assume, were good people. But as a group, my ancestors committed genocide and enslaved people of color on a historical scale. And today I'm embarrassed to see the great-grandchildren of those murderers and rapists trying to claim the moral high ground when we have done nothing to earn it except having the good fortune of winning the birth lottery by being born in this country. I wonder, where does this feeling of superiority come from? And I think the answer is that it is a form of white supremacy. Opponents of DACA are not upset about undocumented white Canadian immigrants. They're not upset about undocumented white immigrants from European countries. They're upset about Latino and Latina immigrants. They're only upset about immigrants who are also people of color. And I think the real reason behind most white opposition to immigration reform is nothing other than racism. I believe that we can be better than that. We are at a turning point in the history of this country. The question of whether we will be a country of liberty and justice or a country of bigotry and hatred is being decided at every level of this country, from Congress down to city councils like this one. I actually envy you all, because you have an opportunity to write your names into the history of this county as supporting the cause of liberty and justice. You have an opportunity to speak for those who are voiceless, and you have an opportunity to be on the right side of history. As I see it, there are no practical reasons to vote against this resolution, and every moral reason to vote for it. So I urge you to reintroduce and support and vote for this resolution. Thank you.
Next speaker is Karl Wolfe. Name and address, please.
Thank you. My name's Karl Wolfe. I live at 7128 Monroe in Hammond, and I'm here to once again ask the council to put forward and pass a resolution in support of DACA recipients. There's been a number of conversations on this issue here at the council and in other venues over the last few weeks, and as I've thought about those exchanges, a couple of things came to mind. One of them was, and I've heard it said, that one reason not to pass such a resolution is because we're up against a behemoth in Indianapolis and in Washington, with Republicans controlling Congress and the presidency and governorship. But I can recall not too long ago, 4 or 5 years ago, if that long, that the city and the administration took a very powerful stand when the vice president, who was governor at the time, Pence, passed a horribly oppressive anti-gay legislation called RFRA. And the administration did the right thing at the time and stood up and said that Pence should resign, that he was unfit to be CEO or an executive of any such state when he supports the oppression of such people. And this city and the administration of the city did the right thing by standing up for people and took that risk of standing up for people in the face of a Republican governor who has gone on to be part of a horribly racist, horribly anti-human regime in Washington. That's what he's gone on to be. And we stood up to him, and we should be proud of that, and we should do it again. Another aspect is that Gary is being sued. I don't think they're being sued for dollars per se. I don't think. I mean, they're being sued to drop their welcoming city ordinance because it's sanctuary. At least that's what the right-wing nut conservative lawyer in Terre Haute says, who's bringing the suit. But it's time to stand up to him, and it's time to stand up to Todd Rokita as well, who's running for U.S. Senate from Munster. He lives in Brownsburg now, I guess, who has said that in his ads that the liberal elites are supporting open borders and amnesty while Rokita is pledging to build the wall and make English our official language. Or where Rokita says in his tweet that Gary was harboring illegal immigrants, that Gary was a sanctuary city, that I'm paraphrasing here, obviously. So Rokita is using this racism of closing the borders, following this racism of a wall, following this racism of English only. And I'm begging you, do not fear this man. Stand up to this crazy racist talk that's going on from the people in Terre Haute and our potential senator. Somewhere we have to start standing up and saying we're not going to put up with this, just like we did when this city stood up for the gays of this state and against RFRA. So, thank you. We did it once. I know that we can do it again.
Thank you, sir.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
I'd like to continue the story, and I appreciate Mr. Wolfe for coming up here and telling a story that happened in 2013. It happened exactly the way he said it. In fact, quite frankly, a lot of what he said I agree with. But let's continue the story. So in 2013, Mayor McDermott and Hammond City Council stand up to a state law that's passed by the Indiana and approved by the governor, and we were outraged. First off, it was a state law that stripped our powers locally, and, we stood up. In 2013, I remember being on TV myself. I remember the city council passing a resolution and and then in 2014, when we went back down to the State House, the Indiana legislature passed a law that applied to one city in the state of Indiana, Hammond, Indiana, where they gutted a rental registration program, said that you could only charge $5 per unit, and took $750,000 from the city of Hammond every year since then. So 2015, 2016, 2017, we're $2.1 million out of pocket so far. Then I filed a lawsuit against the state of Indiana for targeting Hammond like that, and we won. The Court of Appeals said, Hammond, your constitutional rights were violated by the supermajority. Good job, Mayor McDermott, you're right. The state of Indiana is appealing that, and it's going to the Supreme Court, acknowledging the state of Indiana targeted the city of Hammond and violated the Indiana Constitution. We're still $2.1 million out of pocket, and we're still paying for lawyers to go to the Indiana Supreme Court, and we may lose there. And if we lose, we'll never get that $750,000 a year back, ever. And then Mr. Wolfe also said Gary's being sued over their ordinance, very similar to the one we're talking about. Gary was sued. They are asking for money. I agree it is a right-wing wacko that's suing Gary. But I could tell you one thing I know about Gary. The mayor and every city person on the city council were named individually, and they all have their own lawyers. 10 lawyers on a First Amendment case. Even if Gary's not found guilty for anything, that's a $2 or $3 million case, just defending themselves. For what? For passing an ordinance or a resolution that we have no control over. We have no control over. This was something passed by the U.S. federal government, and I agree. I'm not a fan of this guy. I think he's doing a horrible job tearing our country apart. But the American public, our country voted for him. He's the president of the United States. And our state voted for Governor Holcomb. We worked hard against him. We have a 2/3 supermajority in the House of Trump-supporting Republicans. We have things they could take, and they could do it tomorrow, easily. And what are we going to do? File a lawsuit and say, give us our gaming money back? Give us our water revenue back? And then what are we going to say? Karl, you said that we weren't going to get sued. And he says, sorry, I was wrong. Defend yourselves. We have stuff to lose. This isn't our job. I'll sign that resolution, Tom McDermott, right now. I have no problem with that. You ask the mayor and the city council to send something to Donald Trump, it does. To send something to U.S. Congress, it does. To send something to Governor Holcomb, the Attorney General, the Indiana supermajority, and saying, screw you. We're opposed to DACA. Guess what happens? Next year, I'm going to be living in Indianapolis defending us, trying to keep our gaming money, trying to keep our water revenue right here where it belongs. They will take it. They've done it before. They will do it again. I understand, everybody. I sympathize. It's a horrible thing we're talking about right now. This is the Hammond City Council. I am the Hammond mayor. I have nothing to do with the immigration issue, okay? You want to talk, you talked about the right guys. Todd Young, he stands solidly with the President of the United States on this issue. That's where this pressure should be getting exerted. Congressman Pete, I imagine he supports opposing DACA, okay? I'm sure he supports us in this issue. Todd Rokita, it'd be a joke if that guy was elected. You should be working hard. You're focusing your energy in the wrong place, guys. And we do have things to lose. And the lawyers I talked to said, you better stay out of this one and stay in your lane, Mayor McDermott, because you got stuff they could take. They've done it before, and they'll do it again. I'm sorry. When you're asking the mayor and the city council to get involved, it's a whole separate thing. You ask Dave Werpel, he may feel different individually. Tom McDermott, I'll do it right now. Mayor McDermott, I have a job to do. And so do you. And that job is to protect our assets, because they'll take them. They've done it before, they'll do it again.
Thank you, Mayor. The next speaker of the evening is Audrey Higgs.
Alvin, can you help my mom? Thanks. I appreciate it.
We should get a mobile microphone for situations like this.
Okay, I'm here. My name is Audrey Higgs. I stay at 1123 Morris Street. I'm here to say that I was there when my son fell off the couch, and I had to call for the paramedics to come in to take him to the hospital. I moved the table in our living room. I did not know that there was some money on the table. And no one told me when they came in from the paramedics that they had seen it, because I am partially blind. The thing is, if they had told me or said something about it, I would have removed it or said, "Miss, will you? There's some money on your table. Will you get it, please?" I'm quite sure they realized that I was partially visual impaired, but no one told me anything. So there was a young lady that also came in. Also, I don't know whether she taken it or someone else might have taken it. I don't think they did, but my son went to ask them about it, and I told him to be respectful to them as much as he could be. Sometimes his voice gets a little strange there, and it seems like he's disrespectful to people, but it's just his personality. So maybe they taking it wrong or whatever. All he wanted to do was to ask them about it, and I told him to ask them respectfully about it. And then somebody put some stuff in the paper, a lot of stuff which wasn't concerning what he went down there to ask them about. So I figured that was wrong for them to do that. But they did act respectable at my house. I have nothing wrong with that. They always have acted respectable whenever I call them and things like that. It was just that money was missing, and I didn't know it, because I know I didn't take it. So maybe the lady that came in there, she could have did it, but he just asked them about it. So that was what it's all about. So if it's a misunderstanding, I'm sorry about that, and I'm quite sure he is too. So I hope we can drop this, whatever they have about him or anything, I hope that we can drop it and come to a respectable matter of communication with each other. And that's it.
Thank you. The next speaker of the evening is Jeff Smith.
No, not the last speaker, I'm on that.
I said the next.
Jeff Smith, 1731 Caroline, Robertsdale. Before I got here this evening, I wasn't sure I was going to address this, but Mr. Higgs, you actually jarred my memory a little bit. When you showed up at the station, there were 5 guys there. 2 of them had to leave on a call. They told you those were the 2 guys that picked you up and took you to the hospital, along with the truck company that showed up too. So the truck company came downstairs, and I've got 6 letters from 6 different firemen, and 4 of these letters state that you said, I want my $200, did you guys take it? So, and I asked you this morning, are my guys lying? Are they lying that they wrote it in a memo on a police report that says you told the battalion chief that the $200 was missing and that we had to take it? After you went to the police department and accused them when they informed you that they had the body cams on. So I got 6 letters, I got a police report, 6 intimidation reports actually against you, sir. 10:30 Wednesday morning, you found out that the body cameras showed that the money was still on the table after the fire department left to take you to the hospital. Today, you show up with an apology. 96-something hours later, I don't accept it. I'm sorry. You should have came that day. You didn't have a problem coming 3 hours later after you got out of the hospital to accuse my guys of taking $200. Would you listen to me, Mr. Higgs? Would you pay attention?
Sir, I heard everything you said, and I apologize. That's all I can do. God bless you. And
I don't
keep
accept
you.
it.
I'm sorry.
The next speaker of the evening is Kendall Warner.
Hello, Council. My name is Kendall Warner. You know, I done been to a lot of these council meetings up here. I watch and I listen to everything that each and every one of y'all say. Including my old buddy here in the mirror. You know, it's troublesome to see, just like this guy just got up, he told the councilman he don't accept his apology. You know, believe it or not, for each and every one of y'all that have a beef with somebody else, if you are not adult enough to sit down and be respectful and talk to somebody, you're gonna always have these problems. That's just like, for instance, Councilman Higgs, he is the first African-American, black, whatever y'all wanna consider him to be, to actually make it in this municipal. But if you look in this audience, you don't see very many of his kind up here. You know why? Because they function off the same principle of systemic racism that most people do. Divide and conquer. As long as you put in division in an equation of life, you're gonna always have conflict. You're gonna always have shootings, bombings, fighting, everything. I lived in a hellhole for 20-something years. I watched it daily. I didn't agree with a lot of it, but the thing is this. We all adults here, you know. I didn't know until I got out of prison that I had a younger brother who was a cop. So what if I'd have ran into him somewhere in the street, not knowing that he is actually my blood brother? And we had a conflict of interest. He could have killed me, I could have killed him. You never can tell. All of us was born here, we don't know who all we related to. You know? But yet, everyone that is in this country, mostly, that's talking about we need to get rid of immigrants, you're immigrants yourself. I ain't heard nobody say, well, we gonna send all these blacks or Africans back to Africa. Why not? Because it's the richest continent on in this body of land. So of course y'all not gonna try to send us back there when most of us that's in this country never been there anyway. We was already here. So to say that, I don't know who gave who the right to feel like one group of people is more superior than anybody else, but the thing is, if you don't stop it and stop being disrespectful to other people, respect begets respect. It don't make no difference who you are or what your position is in life. You gotta respect people. Plain and simple as that. And that was disrespectful what that gentleman there just came up here and did to the council. So, and if y'all don't reprimand him for that, then y'all in the same boat, each and every one of them.
Thank you. The next speaker is Ann Herbert.
Name is Ann Herbert. Address is 5927 Wallace Road. And I just want to get up here and thank the Hammond Police and the firemen for the great job that they do, protecting all of us. And I'm sure that there are other people throughout the city that have the same opinion. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes,
Just real quick.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Warner, I appreciate him coming up and saying what he did. And I'm the fire chief's boss. I want to say something I know about the fire chief. His entire career, he's been a fireman. He didn't spend time in prison. You know, he doesn't know the streets like that, but he was a fireman from the get-go. And now he's the leader of the firemen who were accused of stealing $200. 6 of them felt defensive enough where they filed police reports. And he's representing his people. And he's pissed off, I could tell. I've known Jeff a long time. He's pissed. And you know what? He's allowed to be pissed. And I'm not going to reprimand him because this is a pretty screwed up situation. So I just want to, you know, he's a good guy. He's an honest guy. He's mad because his people were wrongfully accused of something, and he's probably pissed off about it. So,
Thank you. The next speaker is Terry Steagle. Your name and address, please, for the record, sir.
My name is Terry Steagle. I'm a member of Steelworkers 1010. Our union hall is at 747 Grand Avenue, and I'm here to speak about DACA. And DACA is, our local union passed a resolution supporting DACA, and I think the goal here is what we're trying to do is unify people. We've kind of seen what's happened in this country, the divisions that people are trying to create. So we're trying to create the momentum throughout the country to unify people to do the right thing and to be supportive of people for the right things. And I think sometimes I understand the mayor's concern about financial things and the fears of political retributions, but at some point, sometimes you have to take a stand. And, you know, we don't want to end up like a country like Russia, where, you know, if you say the wrong thing, you get a poison pill. So, and we don't want the mayor to be subject to that. But I think a good thing to look at here is it's a positive sign. It was a sign of hope for me when I saw those kids in Parkland and the position they took in a very hostile environment. It was really been hostile as far as gun control. And if you see what those kids did, they stood up. Some of the most powerful people in this country called the NRA. And they had an impact. They had an impact on the state legislature, and they got things done that adults haven't been able to do for years. You know, and then they've even got the president listening to them now, because he's even being willing to support banning bump stocks at least. But you know, you look at the provisions that these kids got, they didn't get it all, but they did a hell of a job, I'll tell you, as far as going and lobbying the state legislature and getting their point across and making some positive change for our society. And that's what this resolution's about, making positive change and stand together as Americans and not be bullied, because there's a lot of bullying going on right now in the legislatures. And we can't tolerate this if we're going to have a society of freedom and democracy. So if you would please reconsider your position on the DACA thing. We're with you. We'll stand behind you. And I'm pretty sure East Chicago has the DACA resolution on their docket tonight. So do what you can to help us. We're with you, and we want to support you too. So we're in this together. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Michael O'Pinker.
Michael O'Pinker, 3254 173rd Street here in Hammond. First of all, I'd like to say hello to all my former colleagues. I really miss being on the other side, but Councilman Werpel's doing a hell of a job, and Council President Vanez is doing a fine job herself. The reason why I'm here, obviously, the incident which happened with Councilman Higgs. When I got wind of this, I was livid. I spoke to my father about this, and my father put 32 years on the Hammond Fire Department. When I came on, I had 4. He retired. Between me and him, we have 52 years on the Hammond Fire Department. In that 52 years, my dad has never experienced an incident which happened that Saturday morning over at Central Fire Station. I myself, in 24 years, have never been accused of stealing something from a resident on a fire call, ambulance call. 52 years, and we've never experienced this. And Councilman Higgs is going to make a comment that he never said that. He never accused the firemen of stealing $200. Well, it's 6 firemen writing letters, what they heard, and all of a sudden Councilman Higgs doesn't remember. He didn't remember saying that. He's got something to think about, really. These Hammond Fire Police work their ass off. They put their line on duty every single day, wanting to know if they're going to come home to their family. And to be accused, you should be ashamed of yourself, Councilman Higgs. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Juan Pardon me? Andrade, okay. I wasn't sure if it was, never mind. All righty, hi.
Good evening, Juan Andrade, lifelong resident of East Chicago, Indiana, 4005 Elm Street in East Chicago, longtime community activist and co-host of a radio talk show program on WLTH on Friday evenings and Saturday mornings. I do want to talk a little bit about DACA, which wasn't on the agenda for today for one reason or another. But when we first started our meeting today, or you started your meeting today, everyone stood up and we put our hand on our hearts and we said the Pledge of Allegiance. And one thing that we said was that this is one nation under God, which I think Hammond is part of this nation. And so we're not asking, in asking this council to support a resolution in favor of DACA, but to follow the other cities and towns in this country that have already done so. And you know what? These children that came here, who knows how long ago back then, they were brought here by an adult, by a family, or whatever the case may be, but they were brought here. They didn't come here on their own. And so it is wrong to end the conditions that they were given to be able to stay here and work here and go to school here and send them back. So at some point, our government officials need to stand up for what's right as opposed to what's wrong, because you know what? Everyone, everywhere that serves or doesn't serve, sometimes serves on their own agenda. And sometimes it's a crooked agenda, and it doesn't work that way. We do have elections this year, and we have elections in 2020. And I really think that DACA and immigration are going to be two major issues, as well as the gun issues. So let's support, let's create, and let's put something on your agenda here that has to do with DACA, and let's support it as a council. And not take a lead on this, but just follow those other cities and towns in this country of ours that is under one nation, under God, and do the right thing.
The next speaker is Jose Bustos.
Good evening to everybody here. Jose Bustos, 3427 Grand Boulevard. I am also a resident of East Chicago. And the reason I am here is because of everything that has gone on and everything that we've heard so far. I have been working for Catholic Charities for the past 10 years with the agency that the bishop took under his wing, Isaac. It's in the Son of Abraham, Immigrant Support and Assistance Center. In this past 10 years, I have seen these DACA kids, these dreamers. June 15 of 2012, when this program was adopted in this country, it was a whole new world for these kids who have up to that day didn't have no future in their mind. And I am here to tell you that that following day, we had dozens of kids, and since then, we have had thousands, literally. Over 2,000 DACA recipients that we have handled in my office. And hundreds, literally hundreds, are from the city of Hammond, here in Hammond, Indiana. They've come from all over, Lake Station, everywhere. I have come to see that dream in their eyes, that glee in their eyes about, I want to be a policeman, I want to be a fireman, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer. I had one kid who wanted to be an astronaut, astrophysicist, microbiologist. And you know what? I believe them. Many of them are taming that dream. Many of them did not know that they were any different than their peers until the day came when they were trying to get scholarships for after high school. And that's when they come to find out that, sorry, buddy, you're no longer in the game because you don't have the proper paperwork. These kids have grown up in this country. This is all they know. They don't know any other language. You know, I was really happy to hear when the announcement was made about St. Patrick's Day. I just assisted an event yesterday over at St. Pat's Church in Chicago. Some wonderful dancers came out there and did their thing. Beautiful. That tapping, you know, I love it. And I'm here to remind you people, not to give you a history lesson, but this country was based on immigration, on immigrants. Different times, different people from different places came into this country in waves. We just happen to be going through the wave of Latino mostly. And why is that? Because we're the ones closest to the United States. And it is not, brothers and sisters, let me tell you, it is not like one day these parents woke up one day and the guy says to his wife, hey, honey, let's go to the U.S. and break their laws. Absolutely not. They did it because of necessity. Every religion in this world allows for people to steal if they have to in order to feed their kids, their family. These people are not stealing. Yeah, you hear, national news about this one guy who went and killing. We have that, whether you're legal or not, whether you're documented or not. And it has been stated there's more crime committed by U.S.-born people, percentage-wise, than by undocumented. Over 87% of this country supports the Dreamers. We're talking about money. The mayor's talking about supporting his constituency. Well, I'm here to remind you that those Dreamers have neighbors, have cousins, have uncles, have aunties who are voting people here, and he also represents them. You also represent the mayor. If we truly want to be on the right side of history, I think that we have to do what is right. If we look at our history of this country, the Irish people went through the same exact thing that we as Latinos are going through right now. If you remember NINA, N-I-N-A, no Irish need apply. They were looked down upon, spit on, because they were the scum of the earth. when they came in waves to this country. And where are they now? Doing great. I am begging you to look it within you and do what is right. Money comes and goes. I'm not a politician or an accountant. But where are we going to be standing in time?
I thank you, sir.
And I hope that I can thank you later. Thank you.
Thank you. The final speaker of the evening is Alvin Cheeks. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Albino, muchos dos, muchos senior, muchos Ave Merrill Street. English and Spanish is a common language in America, ma'am. I stand here, tell my brothers, dreamers, I love them. I thank the señorita who gave me this. I'll treasure this. Thank you, señorita. I've been coming to this council meeting 32 years. I was brought here by Mayor Clem because I broke a window playing baseball when the field was facing the opposite way. I was born into the red books where I learned city law from the ground up. And I so much love the democratic process in America. In April 2004, I was damaged. My left hand was damaged by the Hammond police. I was hit by a squad car. First time my hand was damaged. The second time my hand was damaged was by an Indiana State Trooper at Festival of the Lakes where he was disrespecting one of the sisters. I was brought up that you stand in honor. Councilman Higgs, you gave an apology. Takes a man to apologize. The Honorable Minister Farrakhan warned you at dinner one day, Councilman Higgs, that your testament would be tested. Your fearlessness for our community would be tested. You know, it's plenty of times things that happen in this city. A gentleman, LaJuan Jones, was rear-ended by the Hammond police, and he never received an apology. He received his money in court. You know, people forget about those things. You know, photographing meetings is legal. You know, I thank those young brothers that hide in the shadows and the darkness and that were willing to do whatever it takes, you know, to protect my honor. I love you. You know, just like the brothers that's calling me, they checking to make sure I'm all right. So I thank the FOI, I thank Minister Aziz for sending out his best tonight. I thank those members of the FOI that don't say their names, don't let people know. I thank you too. Brother Warple, I told you that I didn't know that you had an eye problem. I too have a right eye Doppler problem. So being that you loved our community so much, as respect for you and the love that you've shown me and shown my community, I won't use a fixture that's on my camera that's perfectly legal in the state of Indiana. May God bless you, Brother Warple. Wa alaikum salam, dear brother.
Public expression is now closed.
Make a motion that we adjourn from this meeting. I so move.
Motion by Councilman Higgs, second by Councilman Spitali to adjourn this meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Everyone have a good evening.
7:04.